let me come to you, and my colleague. Let me come to you. You've heard clearly what the engineer has been sharing, a very detailed lowdown. I want to know here from where you are. Where are the youths in all these games? Where? And secondly, the lot of the allegations that are coming through in terms of how money seems to be now already making rounds, although not yet felt within the region. And usually we've known the youths to be at the tail end, either receiving this money or in the middle of getting this money. Where are the youths in all this? And what do you see as well? Do you concur with what's happening and all these allegations that are taking place?
Yeah, Felix and viewers, I want to first of all appreciate what my colleague Lanya Lenge has said. He has virtually spoken about all the issues surrounding these elections, honestly, especially those issues that are in the media for now. And then maybe before I answer your question, I want to say what as observers from outside and how we look at the events unfolding, what I as a person, I would suspect certain situations to happen, and I begin to build some scenarios. And for me, the scenarios, I want to explain about two scenarios I try to build looking at the events that are already unfolding. First, the contestation of the name issue builds the scenario that there could be a possibility of an annulment should there be a fault. But of course, for now, we don't want to say it because you have to wait for the legal recourse to take its chance. And I think the ultimatum, which I would say the AMT candidate gave to the EC, is to give a response to him by today, by end of today. That is the 20th Friday. Now, so beyond today, we would maybe expect to see other reactions happening. And that reaction happening could be an injunction or something else. And in that scenario, let's say a possibility of an annulment happens, and then of the candidate of the NRM candidate happens. That would now mean the biggest effort would be to ensure that the question of the invalid signatures of the other nominating parties should happen, so that there should be an opportunity of an annulment of the entire election, so that we have a fresh nomination process. So we need to see all these dimensions, but all this is only in anticipation that the fact of name incorrectness actually happens. Or maybe we do the other scenario is where maybe we look at shifting goalpost, where the rules are shifted in such a way that maybe we go to court. Maybe the issues first is silence, and the name issue, the O actually begins to be insinuated as Olanya. And so EC allows the candidate to run with the names registered, and then they wait for petitions in the future. And of course, in this, you may also expect that there could be other interpretation, whether O actually means Olanya or O is, in fact, its own sole name. But so looking at that scenario, I see possibilities of building facts around false and facts around legitimizing names. Now, when I look at the youth, I want to say that the youth in northern Uganda are in deploring state for now. You know that the most recent statistics of the Uganda Bureau of Statistics indicated that northern Uganda is actually the poorest in the country now, with the statistics, a poverty indices of 67.7%. The poverty level is 67.7%. Now you can imagine the biggest wealth people now have is the land itself, because even the production, the production capacity of the land, you have the agricultural products, but if you are not amalgamated in groups, it means that the products you produce produced from actually faces no value. And so the poverty index here is not likely to change. And if we are looking at now the situation in OMORO for now, we all know what is happening in the country, especially the skyrocketing prices of all goods and services, and people are struggling to meet the cost of basically everything. And I think the most vivid thing now that we are seeing, even movement alone, you require the cost of border is very high because fuel prices are high in Gulu. If you go to Total or Shell or other, these traditionally renowned petrol stations, a petrol is going at 5,600, and then diesel is around 5,000 something, close to 5,600 as well. It is very markedly closed. That diesel and petrol are so close, and this has been translated into the cost of transportation, the cost of goods, virtually the cost of everything. Now, I want to draw it down to a common man who beats chapati. This is traditionally now youth occupied, the preserve of young people. For now, the chapati dealers, a carton of chapati powder, the flour would go for around 50,000, but now is around 80,000. And this means also it's so many who are question themselves whether you now roll a chapati of 500 or you roll a chapati of 1,000. And this is the kind of pressure that we should expect to see built in young people. And now when it's an electioneering period like this, you expect that a young person is most inclined to move towards what will make the pocket better. And when we look at the deployment of the different political parties in the OMORO by-election, I think that I want to buy in the submission of my brother or engineer Olenge. The NRM candidate seem to have more camps than the other political parties. I didn't in the events that have so far unfolded, I haven't seen particularly a better camp for the other parties other than the NRM, but we are seeing like sporadic movements here and there to try and seek participation of the different parties. But we are also beginning to see that political parties are now moving, having the door-to-door campaign seems not to be working so much. So the garden campaign now is working, because people are now struggling to make ends meet. People are moving in the gardens, people are moving into markets and all that. So where will you find, will you find somebody home really? Maybe you'll find somebody in the market, in the garden, by the roadside. Campaigns are moving everywhere, even in the gardens, even by the roadside, even in marketplaces. And I want to reiterate again here my fear we see about the security situation. This whole idea of putting checkpoints on the roads and all that probably is to ensure that the district is on siege, and so there should be no influence from other other districts. For example, you would expect that the other political party should be looking for logistics, should be looking for other people who can supply them certain things that should allow the campaign movements to go on well. And if we have very strict checks on people here and there, then it will frustrate that process. And I think that one will also frustrate the finances, and ultimately it might also impact into the election outcome. But young people.
Just a minute, James. As you make your other point, I want you to, because you touched the point which I want you to drive home. Help me understand when you talk about the garden campaign, roadside campaign, marketplace campaign. What are the messages that are being fronted as campaign messages by the different camps? And also, which camp is foot forward? And where should we expect the contest to be? Is it between Nup and NRM, or between FDC and NRM, because this also ties into what Engineer Olanya said, that if the FDC candidate initially was kidnapped and they transacted as alleged, is FDC seen as a threat? Which is the biggest NRM challenger in this race?
Okay, I think it is too early to tell because we need to also learn from the past. What is the context in OMORO? For me, I would say OMORO is a swing district. Just like in the United States, they could talk about swing states. I think OMORO is a swing district in Uganda. In 2000, 2001, the OMORO constituency was won by Simon Tolit. When the former Speaker of Parliament, who is now fallen, actually lost the constituency 2001, 2006. He lost the constituency Tolit, and Simon Tolit was an FDC candidate at that time. Now we are looking at him coming from a different political front. So it's quite difficult to tell whether it will be the FDC or the NUP or the ANT candidate. But I would think that the biggest battle will be lying around the NUP and the FDC candidates. Now, I think the messages are clear. For now, actually, first of all, there's a context. Whenever it's a political question surrounding the events of death, people tend to downplay it a bit. And I think there is a serious buy-in for now for those who understood the implication of Olanya's death and they reflect on the cultural context. They think that it is not ideal to have like overt campaigns and all that, because it's not a reflection of the cultural values that we should have held for quite some time, to give a proper time for mourning and having soul searching and reflection on the demise of Olanya. Yeah, but unfortunately, the election discourse brings this to question and also says the other, aspect of the cultural aspect needs to be reviewed. And so people are in a constant quest on reviewing their own, conducts and questioning whether it's the right time to do what. And so probably also it now gives the opportunity that, yes, while you do not have the opportunity for large gatherings, yes, spread the message by the roadside or through the marketplaces and all that, and the garden. And I think the other party that has, had all the monies to be able to do this is the NRM party. And I think if you've listened over the national television and other channels, you could have already heard there are talks about roads, talks about services, talks about completing the legacy of the fallen speaker, and talks about bringing new growth and development initiatives. But I think that the other talk about questions of corruption that within the district, we may most likely hear it from the other political parties, not the NRM. And I think maybe the other point I want to say is that
in summary, because I want us to go for a break. In summary,
yes, the NRM party should be struggling to retain the power of incumbency, because the rallying behind Olanya's son is more or less claiming that there is still this element of incumbency in place. While we're having a by-election, we still have the connotation of incumbency, because it would be kind of an elongation of the NRM dominance in the electoral process. But everything is too early to call, so we still have to watch this space.
Yeah. All right. Let me come to you, Engineer Olanya. Very great insights. I want to find out, because from what you've just painted, there's so much security that that has been deployed in the district. And then you've just described what is happening. Those who did nominate the three candidates belonging to ANT FDC. The other parties, that is ANT FDC, were apparently summoned by the Electoral Commission. And I want to find out, with all this that is happening, I've also read somewhere some allegations. I think the RDCs be getting involved in partisan politics, campaigning on behalf of, I think, NRM candidate. I want to know, is the Electoral Commission in charge of this process? Who is in charge of this process? That is one of the questions I want to throw out to you. But also another question that I want to throw to you is around these different camps that you talked about, the camp of Honorable Richard Todong, the camp of the cabinet team, the president who is coming on 22nd, then Anita Mong. Can you put a figure on almost, what's the word around how much the NRM is looking at here, investing in terms of winning this race? I think you're muted.
Okay, am I clear now?
Yeah,
okay.
Please proceed.
Let me start with the talking point on the RDC's involvement in the campaign. The RDCs are civil servants, at least that is known by law. That is a matter that can be even challenged in the courts of law. It's a matter that was being brought up in the media. I remember the FDC candidates and the other candidates of the other political parties raised that complaint as a joint opposition front, that the RDC is openly campaigning for the NRM candidate, which is not allowed by law. The RDC in question is called Unyuk Andrew, a gentleman I know very well as a cadre and a mobilizer of the NRM party. So he's taken it upon himself to openly and widely campaign for the NRM candidate, which to me, I believe, within the law, you would ask yourself questions as such. What time will the RDC find to monitor government programs if he's busy campaigning for a party candidate? That is a question of what roles do the RDCs play. If in this case, then you'd ask yourself the relevance of the position of the resident district commissioners. They're entirely supposed to represent the president in the delegation capacity in the districts, and of course monitor and follow up every government projects. When we hear about the Myoga projects not moving on well, then you see RDCs who are supposed to be following these processes and these projects, because this involves public funds, then it becomes a menace in society. Of course, we raise these concerns as media. We also publish these stories, and you would find that some of them, especially this the RDC question, would take it as pride that is being covered by the media for perhaps showing support to his party. So for him, he takes it as credit to his side. So that is the question of morality in this country. Do we really have the morality or the moral authority as a country, or as members of this country, as citizens, to do things the right way? Are systems really working? So that is the other thing. Then that clearly takes me to the issue of institutions. Is the Electoral Commission in charge? I will tell you for a fact, we do not have properly functioning institutions in this country. We do not have properly functioning institutions in this country. I'll tell you, at least authoritatively, that the EC is not in charge of this election. Why? There's a question of summoning the other FDC, NUP, and ANT, people who, the designates, okay? The people who made signatures, they appended their signatures to the nomination of those other three candidates. Why summon them? Why not summon them? Because someone complained. When the complainant wrote to EC, instead of EC writing formal summons to them, we only had that police picked them. So you wonder which authority the EC now has to send police to pick people who are supposed to be summoned. Because in this case, these are members, these are stakeholders, major and important stakeholders in this electoral process. So to me, entirely, Electoral Commission is not in charge of this election. At least that I can say authoritatively. It remains a question of them to prove a point, to show us that yes, they still trust and believe in the Electoral Commission. At some point, there were jokes that were being made about the Electoral Commission that among the electoral reforms that were being advocated for in this country, the only thing that changed about the Electoral Commission was their name. They only changed the name to an Independent Electoral Commission. The other things remain the same. So that is a matter that we leave it to the public to sort out. Then my colleague talked about the door-to-door campaign, the garden-to-garden campaign. That is intense. That brings me to the time that Electoral Commission, the law mandates for these campaigns. First of all, I do not understand why this by-election, they gave it only 9 days of campaign. That is a question that we would send to the Electoral Commission. What yardstick did they use to narrow down this election to replace the fallen speaker to 9 days? I don't think we have COVID as such in the previous election. So there was basically no ground under which they would simply announce a campaign period as short as it is, that now restrains the candidates to campaign beyond even the regulated time. A case in point is the FDC candidate who was summoned to go to Kampala. You can imagine, you are campaigning, they're summoning you to go to Kampala to respond to issues by the EC. Yet, Biabakama and his team could step down in Gulu and set up a temporary, or set up in OMORO, set up a desk. They even have a formal office. Why do they again need to summon candidates all the way to Kampala? Yet these candidates are supposed to be campaigning each and every day. They have schedules of campaigns, perhaps running about 10, 15 rallies in a day. Okay. You're supposed to cover not less than 3 sub-counties. I mean, you can't break that down in 9 days. So the candidates are doing campaigns in what we call locally as Wango campaigns. The fireplace campaigns, the bonfire campaigns are also a very, very topical angle of campaign that's ongoing. So the EC is trying to single-handedly narrow down, and they're not trying to challenge or summon every other, because all the candidates are doing this bonfire campaign, the fireplace campaign in the evenings. But I've only summoned the FDC candidate. We've not heard about the NRM candidate. We've not heard about the ANT candidate being summoned or the NUP candidate being summoned. That is now a question of morality on the EC side, a question of being in charge, a question of fairness, as we would expect from the Electoral Commission. Of course, as the media, as the public eye, ours is to ask the hard questions, which is what we try to bring to the attention of the public. Then you also said, you also asked the question of the youth involvement in this politics. The youth involvement in this politics is a mess. I'll tell you, the young people in this country, about now 80%, that's a critical mass. That's a big number. So in the regards to this by-election, at least I am happy as a young person who writes by a theme of for the youth, by the youth. We always have that theme as me and as colleagues, that if there's a young person involved in something, and I feel a young person should, in this case, support. At least I'm happy that there are like about 2-3 candidates who are young people. The NRM candidate is equally a young person, he's 32 years old. The ANT candidate is equally young, he's in his early 30s. So that is a good step. Even the FDC candidate, likewise, is also a young person. So, and I'm happy that these are young people who have taken up leadership roles and to offer themselves for leadership.
All right.
The question of names that my brother raised, the question of name is a clear-cut case. You know, in the law, if I am called Olanya Tony, it is different from being called Olanya T. That's a clear-cut difference. That is why even the president himself was forced to swear a deed poll. Even Mogisha Mutu did a deed poll in the previous election. Robert Chagulanyi did a deed poll. At least it allowed us to get to know the president's other name, that is Tibo Ahura. That name had never surfaced. But because of the issue of deed poll, the law is clear-cut. That is a yes or no situation in the law. You're either on the no side or you're on the wrong side. So the ANT candidate seems to be having a good case of perhaps even causing nullification of the NRM candidature. Of course, that is a question of the legality of the nomination process. It will also challenge us to find out if the Electoral Commission is in charge. We got information yesterday but one that they are in crisis meetings to see how to harmonize these grounds. Perhaps that's why my colleague Ladito Pito said that they're trying to even raise the concerns on the signatures of the nominees of the other candidates so they can buy time and see how to buy of and get of negotiation points that you leave my candidate, I leave your candidate, something like that. Of course, other provisions of being coerced are also brought in that case. Then maybe the last point I would raise is the issue. The last point I would raise is the issue of the OMORO by-election. What are the things that are being used as campaign lines? What are people talking about? Or what are the things that perhaps candidates are dwelling much on? Of course, OMORO by-election, OMORO is among the most, if not the most impoverished district in Acholi sub-region. OMORO district here is the poorest. People there are living in dire situation. That is the fact. Take it or leave it from me, it is the fact. We had the NRM Secretary General speak about people not to vote for the other candidates of the other political parties, saying they would not get services. The question would be, it has been under the belt of NRM for a number of years, and we've not seen any clear services to the people of OMORO. That would be a question that the NRM will have to tell the people or the voters in the electoral system of OMORO. The pledges made by government, the roads are not in good state. Remember, the speaker was also struggling on that same project of getting the roads tarmacked. We have the issue of the hospitals. OMORO is the district that is infested and badly affected by the nodding disease syndrome. Up to now, there's no clear-cut support from the government on the nodding disease that is affecting the people of OMORO. If you go down deep in the villages, you'd see children dying off, children wasting away, young children wasting away because of the nodding disease. And COVID alone was given a lot of attention without even giving attention to nodding disease, that government cannot invest in money to get researchers to do research, to find out exactly what is the cause. And perhaps we need to know what is happening with them, because up to now we don't know what is really causing that disease. And then, of course, the issue of hospitals and major other talking points. Of course, the other talking points are emotional talking points. The death of the fallen speaker. People would be asking questions. You don't know. Of course, the opposition used it to their advantage. Remember, the father said the son, Jacob Elanya, was killed, was poisoned. So those are questions that will be brought. Are there questions that will be raised about the death of the speaker? That what killed him was, of course, the father said poison. Okay, the son told him it was poison. So that is a point, and that is a talking point that perhaps other forces or other players will, of course, the NRM will need to come and make it more clearer to the masses, and the opposition in this case would want to use it as a striking point of their campaign issues.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tony. We are coming to the end of this show. Slightly overshot. It was intentional. We started late. But as we come to a close, I think my other last question, and briefly, please attempt that question, James, is around what do you see so far is being spent on? What are candidates spending on in this period so far? Briefly, can you share?
Yeah, traditionally, it's in an election period like this is difficult to say exactly, because the ultimate spending tend to be on the last day, the last day. And maybe I wanted to correct also. I think the president's coming is not really targeting the 22nd. They are targeting the 24th. The 24th of that is Tuesday. And yes, on the last day of the election.
Yeah,
now, I mean the last day of the campaigns. Yeah, so we will most likely see ultimate spending on that day or a day before that day. So looking at the 23rd and the 24th may be the day of the most wide-scale finance campaign spending that we have ever seen. And it will be difficult to say which item, because looking at the unfolding events and the economic situation, money may be changing hand more than any other item. And that question, the best way to answer is to try and target those days and see what happens.
All right. Thank you so much. We've come to the end of today's very interesting discussion. Now you have it, the scene so far, what's happening in OMORO by-elections. I was joined with James Opito, who was giving us the insights. Also, there I had Engineer Olanya Oleng Tony. sharing the insights as a journalist, and it's been a very great, interesting discussion. Felix Kafuma has been a moderator. We'll be back here Friday. Probably then I hope I can have you back to share in real time what's happening at that point in time. Probably, yeah. I think I'm looking you in to see what will be happening at around that same time next week, and so that we can continue with the discussions. But thank you so much for making it part of this show for today. And I want to sign off from here till next week. Bye bye. Stay blessed. God bless.